Hi, I'm Mr. Mellinger. I'm the Advanced Placement Chemistry teacher at Hoover High School, and this video is intended to be a brief introduction to AP Chemistry for those students who are considering taking it or who have already enrolled, and also an introduction to chemistry in general and why it's something you should consider studying. So generally there's two reasons why you educate yourself. One of them is just to gain a better understanding of the world you live in and kind of find your place in the world. And the other is to gain a job skill, something that you can make a living at and that can support you and your family. So with regard to the first one, I always love the quote by Albert Einstein when they asked him why he did the work he did. Albert Einstein being maybe the most famous scientist of the 20th century, maybe of all time. And he said, I want to know how God created this world. So he wanted to just understand the processes by which the universe worked. Albert Einstein was a physicist. Physics and chemistry are very closely related to each other. They're both physical sciences. So it's understanding just nature, how nature and science and the world works. The other reason is very practical, training for a great job. If you can become skilled in chemistry over the next 6 years or so, 2 years in high school, 4 years in college, maybe even a few more years in college, you will have a job for the rest of your life. You will always have employment. You will always have a good paying job. We'll talk about that in a minute. And so it's a great subject to study for two reasons. You understand the world that you live in, and you get ready to prepare yourself to go out into the world and to make a living. So what are some of the fields that you can go into with AP Chemistry? Well, one that's been in the news almost every night. You can't turn on the TV news without seeing something about medical research, about trying to find a cure for the COVID-19 virus or trying to find a vaccine for it. And you'll see scenes of chemistry labs every night on the news virtually when you turn on the TV. And there's many other areas of medical research as well. So that is a very good field for that. By the way, there's a lot of that goes on here in San Diego, both some very large companies and very small startup companies centered out in the La Jolla area. Another reason is nutrition. We've learned so much about nutrition and how food interacts with our bodies, and things that they thought were true just 10 or 20 years ago have turned out to be not true. So there's still a lot of room left for research relating to how food and our bodies work together. Crime investigation. There's probably been no genre of TV show more popular in the last 20 years than the CSI type shows. And chemistry is one of the major sciences that are used in that, whether it be blood analysis or DNA analysis. Chemistry is central to crime investigation. The environment, protecting the environment. The oceans, the air, trying to find cleaner ways to produce and to utilize energy sources, and how we can live more in concert with the environment around us. Energy production, petroleum, natural gas, although these do have an effect on the environment that's not positive, they're going to be with us for a long time to come because they have a lot of advantages. They're relatively cheap to produce, they're easy to transport long distances, and those are important considerations in developing energy. Third world countries that want to develop just so their people don't starve to death are going to need to develop their economies, and they're going to need these relatively cheap energy sources. And carbon-based fossil fuels are going to be those for some time to come. So we talked about job possibilities. Chemical engineering is the third highest paying major coming out of college. The median salary is over $73,000 a year. That means half of the majors coming out of college make more than that. And that would be in both chemistry and chemical engineering. Chemical engineering is the process of producing chemical substances in large quantities. So if somebody comes up with a vaccine for COVID-19, it's going to need to be produced in large, massive quantities, and that's something that chemical engineers would figure out how to do. Also, the number one is petroleum engineering. That's about $100,000 a year coming out of college, and that's very closely related to chemistry. There's other fields involved in petroleum engineering, but that's one that relates to chemistry very much as well. All right, so there's a lot of opportunities for you to learn chemistry. A great place to start is AP Chemistry. And even if you don't go on into chemistry, you can still get college credit. You can and then move on. If you do plan to go into chemistry, it will give you a great foundation for college. There's a lot of scholarship opportunities if you want to go into a STEM field such as chemistry, and you won't have any trouble finding money for college if you want to major in a STEM subject. All right, so we talked about dealing with problems in the environment, chemistry being used to solve environmental issues. One of the most famous scientists in the world for doing that is a man named Molina. He's a professor emeritus at UCSD out here in La Jolla. And he was born and raised in Mexico City and just loved science from the time he was young. And he played a pivotal role in the discovery of the Antarctic ozone hole and was a co-recipient of the 1995 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, the most prestigious award in science a scientist can get is a Nobel Prize. And he did that for his role in clarifying the threat to the Earth's ozone layer of chlorofluorocarbon gases. All right, so that is a brief overview of chemistry, the field of chemistry and of AP chemistry. What I'm going to do is just show you a couple of quick clips of how the class is going to be taught online next year. You're going to have all your lectures online, problem sets are going to be done online, and this is true whether we come back to school or not. The course, in other words, is going to be largely self-paced. You can go through the class as fast as you want because all the materials and all the resources you need will be online. So that's going to be true whether we do distance learning or not. So I just wanted to show you a couple of examples of what you would be seeing there. All right, now we're going to use the ideal gas law to compare two of these variables at a time. So what happens to pressure when volume is increased? So in blue are the variables, and in red are the ones that we're holding constant. So if nr and t remain constant, then as v increases, p decreases because the particle hits the side fewer times. Let's first look at the equation. You can just see mathematically that if you increase v and you want nRT to stay the same, then you're going to have to decrease the value of p appropriately so that p times v still equals nRT. So what this means is we have on the left, we have a particle, a hydrogen molecule moving in a container of a certain volume. So what happens if we increase the volume? Well, the temperature is the same. That means these two molecules are going to be moving at the same speed, because you remember temperature basically. Okay, let me erase first of all this. All right, so it says how many grams of CO2 will be produced by 4.3 grams of C2H4. Okay, so it's asking for how many grams of CO2, so way over here on the right, we have grams, so you have your unit of measure, whether it's grams or moles, and what substance you're talking about. You got to be sure to have both of those, otherwise it's very easy to get confused in one of these problems. Okay, and we're starting off with 4.3 grams of C2H4, so way over on the left. Okay, so 4.3 grams of C2H4, 4.3 goes right there, and we're looking for grams of CO2. So here's CO2, here's the grams. So it's a similar path to the last problem. We need to go from what we know, and that's grams of C2H4, using molar mass to get moles of C2H4. We can only move sideways inside the chemical equation because that's the one that gives us our recipe, our relationships between these. So once we have that, that's the first conversion. We move from here over to here, moles of C2H4 to moles of CO2. All right, so that concludes this brief introduction to AP Chemistry at Hoover High School for the 2021 school year. I am going to be putting these modules, as I say, this course is going to be self-paced, and I'm going to be putting these modules up online during the summer. And if you want to be in contact with me, and I'll give you the links or how you would sign into them, and you can start the course early. Chemistry is a challenging subject. I'm not going to kid you about that, but I am also going to tell you, as quickly as I tell you how it's challenging, I'm going to tell you that you can do it. It is learnable. It's not a subject that's impossible to learn, but you do have to apply yourself. So if you'd like to work on this early or just would like to contact me for any reason during the summer, there's my email. And just go ahead and email me with a good email address for you, and I'll notify you when different units go online or any other information that might be relevant to the course. So I look forward to seeing you in AP Chemistry next year, and I wish you all the best during the summer.